I bet you didn't know just how deep the practice of fasting goes in Islam. Let's dive in. Fasting during Ramadan, praying in Ramadan, and Istikhara is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's not just about skipping meals, it's a spiritual cleanse. From dawn to sunset, Muslims abstain from food, drink, and other physical needs. Pause, Volume 3, Book 32, number 226, narrated by Abu Hurairah. I heard Allah's apostle saying regarding Ramadan, whoever prayed at night in it, the month of Ramadan, out of sincere faith and hoping for a reward from Allah, then all his previous sins will be forgiven. Volume 3, Book 32, number 227, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, whoever prayed at night the whole month of Ramadan, out of sincere faith and hoping for a reward from Allah, then all his previous sins will be forgiven. Ibn Shihab, a sub-narrator, said, Allah's apostle died and the people continued observing that is Nawafil offered individually, not in congregation, and it remained as it was during the caliphate of Abu Bakr and in the early days of Umar's caliphate. Abdur Rahman bin Abdul Qari said, I went out in the company of Umar bin al-Khattab one night in Ramadan to the mosque, and found the people praying in different groups, a man praying alone, or a man praying with a little group behind him. So Umar said, in my opinion I would better collect these people under the leadership of one Qari, reciter, that is, let them pray in congregation. So he made up his mind to congregate them behind Ubay bin Ka'b. Then on another night I went again in his company and the people were praying behind their reciter. On that, Umar remarked, what an excellent bid'ah, that is innovation in religion this is, but the prayer which they do not perform, but sleep at its time, is better than the one they are offering. He meant the prayer in the last part of the night. In those days, people used to pray in the early part of the night. Volume 3, Book 32, number 228, narrated by Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. Allah's apostle used to pray at night in Ramadan. Volume 3, Book 32, number 229, narrated by Urwa, that he was informed by Aisha, Allah's apostle went out in the middle of the night and prayed in the mosque, and some men prayed behind him. In the morning the people spoke about it, and then a large number of them gathered and prayed behind him, on the second night. In the next morning the people again talked about it, and on the third night the mosque was full with a large number of people. Allah's apostle came out and the people prayed behind him. On the fourth night the mosque was overwhelmed with people and could not accommodate them, but the Prophet came out only for the morning prayer. When the morning prayer was finished, he recited Tashahhud and, addressing the people, said, Amma Badu, your presence was not hidden from me, but I was afraid lest the night prayer, Qiyam, should be enjoined on you and you might not be able to carry it on. So Allah's apostle died and the situation remained like that is, people prayed individually. Volume 3, Book 32, number 230, narrated by Abu Salama bin Abdur Rahman, that he asked Aisha, how was the prayer of Allah's apostle in Ramadan? She replied, he did not pray more than 11 rakat in Ramadan, or in any other month. He used to pray 4 rakat, let alone their beauty and length. And then he would pray 4, let alone their beauty and length. And then he would pray 3 rakat, wider. She added, I asked, O Allah's apostle, do you sleep before praying the witr? He replied, O Aisha, my eyes sleep but my heart does not sleep. Volume 3, Book 32, number 231, narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, whoever fasted the month of Ramadan out of sincere faith, that is belief, and hoping for a reward from Allah, then all his past sins will be forgiven, and whoever stood for the prayers in the night of Qadr out of sincere faith, and hoping for a reward from Allah, then all his previous sins will be forgiven. Volume 3, Book 32, number 232, narrated by Ibn Umar. Some men amongst the companions of the Prophet were shown in their dreams that the night of Qadr was in the last 7 nights of Ramadan. Allah's apostle said, it seems that all your dreams agree that the night of Qadr is in the last 7 nights, and whoever wants to search for it, that is the night of Qadr, should search in the last 7 nights of Ramadan. Volume 3, Book 32, number 233, narrated by Abu Salama. I asked Abu Sa'id, and he was a friend of mine, about the night of Qadr, and he said, we practiced itikaf, seclusion in the mosque, in the middle third of the month of Ramadan with the Prophet. In the morning of the 20th of Ramadan, the Prophet came and addressed us and said, I was informed of the date of the night of Qadr, but I was caused to forget it, so search for it in the odd nights of the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. In the dream, I saw myself prostrating in mud and water, as a sign. So whoever was in Litikaf with me should return to it with me for another 10 days period. And we returned. At that time there was no sign of clouds in the sky, but suddenly a cloud came, and it rained till rainwater started leaking through the roof of the mosque, which was made of date palm leaf stalks. Then the prayer was established and I saw Allah's apostle prostrating in mud and water and I saw the traces of mud on his forehead. Volume 3, Book 32, number 234, narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle said, "Search for the night of Qadr in the odd nights of the last 10 days of Ramadan." Volume 3, Book 32, number 235, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Allah's apostle used to practice itikaf in the mosque in the middle third of Ramadan, and after passing the 20 nights he used to go back to his house on the 21st, and the people who were in itikaf with him also used to go back to their houses. Once in Ramadan, in which he practiced itikaf, he established the night prayers at the night in which he used to return home. And then he addressed the people and ordered them whatever Allah wished him to order and said, "I used to practice itikaf for these 10 days, that is the middle 113 RD, but now I intend to stay in itikaf for the last 10 days of the month. So, whoever was in itikaf with me should stay at his place of seclusion." I have verily been shown the data of this night of Qadr, but I have forgotten it, so search for it in the odd nights of the last 10 days of this month. I also saw myself in the dream, prostrating in mud and water. On the night of the 21st the sky was covered with clouds and it rained, and the rainwater started leaking through the roof of the mosque at the praying place of the Prophet. I saw with my own eyes the Prophet at the completion of the morning prayer leaving with his face covered with mud and water. Volume 3, Book 32, number 236, narrated by Aisha, the Prophet said, "Look for the night of Qadr." Volume 3, Book 32, number 237, narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle used to practice itikaf in the last 10 nights of Ramadan and used to say, "Look for the night of Qadr in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan." Volume 3, Book 32, number 238, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, "Look for the night of Qadr in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, on the night when 9 or 7 or 5 nights remain out of the last 10 nights of Ramadan, that is 21, 23, 25 respectively." Volume 3, Book 32, number 239, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle said, "The night of Qadr is in the last 10 nights of the month, Ramadan, either on the first 9 or in the last remaining 7 nights of Ramadan." Ibn Abbas added, "Search for it on the 24th of Ramadan." Volume 3, Book 32, number 240, narrated by Ubadah bin as-Samit. The Prophet came out to inform us about the night of Qadr, but 2 Muslims were quarreling with each other. So, the Prophet said, "I came out to inform you about the night of Qadr, but such and such persons were quarreling, so the news about it had been taken away, yet that might be for your own good, so search for it on the 29th, 27th and 25th of Ramadan." Volume 3, Book 32, number 241, narrated by Aisha. With the start of the last 10 days of Ramadan, the Prophet used to tighten his waist belt, that is work hard, and used to pray all the night, and used to keep his family awake for the prayers. Stay in the mosque during Ramadan itikaf. Volume 3, Book 33, number 242, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle used to practice itikaf in the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. Volume 3, Book 33, number 243, narrated by Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. The Prophet used to practice itikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan till he died, and then his wives used to practice itikaf after him. Volume 3, Book 33, number 244, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Allah's apostle used to practice itikaf in the middle 10 days of Ramadan, and once he stayed in itikaf till the night of the 21st, and it was the night in the morning of which he used to come out of his itikaf. The Prophet said, "Whoever was in itikaf with me should stay in itikaf for the last 10 days, for I was informed of the date of the night of Qadr, but I have been caused to forget it. In the dream, I saw myself prostrating in mud and water in the morning of that night, so look for it in the last 10 nights and in the odd ones of them." It rained that night, and the roof of the mosque dribbled as it was made of leaf stalks of date palms. I saw with my own eyes the mark of mud and water on the forehead of the Prophet, that is in the morning of the 21st. Volume 3, Book 33, number 245, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet used to bend his head out to me while he was in itikaf in the mosque during my monthly periods, and I would comb and oil his hair. Volume 3, Book 33, number 246, narrated by Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. Allah's apostle used to let his head in the house while he was in the mosque, and I would comb and oil his hair. When in itikaf he used not to enter the house except for a need. Volume 3, Book 33, number 247, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet used to embrace me during my menses. He also used to put his head out of the mosque while he was in itikaf, and I would wash it during my menses. Volume 3, Book 33, number 248, narrated by Ibn Umar. Umar asked the Prophet, I vowed in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance to stay in itikaf for one night in al-Masjid al-Haram. The Prophet said to him, fulfill your vow. Volume 3, Book 33, number 249, narrated by Amra Aisha said, the Prophet used to practice itikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan, and I used to pitch a tent for him, and after offering the morning prayer, he used to enter the tent. Hafsa asked the permission of Aisha to pitch a tent for her, and she allowed her, and she pitched her tent. When Zainab bin Jahsh saw it, she pitched another tent. In the morning the Prophet noticed the tents. He said, what is this? He was told of the whole situation. Then the Prophet said, do you think that they intended to do righteousness by doing this? He therefore abandoned the itikaf in that month, and practiced itikaf for 10 days in the month of Shawwal. Volume 3, Book 33, number 250, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet intended to practice itikaf, and when he reached the place where he intended to perform itikaf, he saw some tents, the tents of Aisha, Hafsa and Zainab. So, he said, do you consider that they intended to do righteousness by doing this? And then he went away and did not perform itikaf in Ramadan, but performed it in the month of Shawwal for 10 days. Volume 3, Book 33, number 251. Narrated by Ali bin al-Hussein Safiya, the wife of the Prophet told me that she went to Allah's apostle to visit him in the mosque while he was in itikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan. She had a talk with him for a while, then she got up in order to return home. The Prophet accompanied her. When they reached the gate of the mosque, opposite the door of Salama, 2 Ansari men were passing by and they greeted Allah's apostle. He told them, do not run away, and said, she is my wife, Safiya bint Huyai. Both of them said, Subhanallah, how dare we think of any evil, O Allah's apostle, and they felt it. The Prophet said to them, Satan reaches everywhere in the human body as blood reaches in it, everywhere in one's body. I was afraid lest Satan might insert an evil thought in your minds. Volume 3, Book 33, number 252, narrated by Abu Salama bin Abdur Rahman. I asked Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, did you hear Allah's apostle talking about the night of Qadr? He replied in the affirmative and said, once we were in itikaf with Allah's apostle in the middle 10 days of Ramadan, and we came out of it in the morning of the 20th, and Allah's apostle delivered a sermon on the 20th of Ramadan and said, I was informed of the date of the night of Qadr in my dream, but had forgotten it. So, look for it in the odd nights of the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. I saw myself prostrating in mud and water on that night, as a sign of the night of Qadr. So, whoever had been in itikaf with Allah's apostle should return for it. The people returned to the mosque, for itikaf. There was no trace of clouds in the sky, but all of a sudden a cloud came and it rained. Then the prayer was established, they stood for the prayer, and Allah's apostle prostrated in mud and water, and I saw mud over the forehead and the nose of the Prophet. Volume 3, Book 33, number 253, narrated by Aisha. One of the wives of Allah's apostle practiced itikaf with him while she had bleeding in between her periods and she would see red, blood, or yellowish traces, and sometimes we put a tray beneath her when she offered the prayer. Volume 3, Book 33, number 254, narrated by Ali bin al-Hussein, from Safiya, the Prophet's wife. The wives of the Prophet were with him in the mosque while he was in itikaf, and then they departed and the Prophet said to Safiya bint Huyai, don't hurry up for I shall accompany you, and her dwelling was in the house of Usama. The Prophet went out, and in the meantime 2 Ansari men met him and they looked at the Prophet and passed by. The Prophet said to them, come here, she is my wife, Safiya bint Huyai. They replied, Subhanallah, how dare we think of evil, O Allah's apostle, we never expect anything bad from you. The Prophet replied, Satan circulates in the human being as blood circulates in the body, and I was afraid lest Satan might insert an evil thought in your minds. Volume 3, Book 33, number 255, narrated by Ali bin al-Hussein from Safiya. Safiya went to the Prophet while he was in itikaf. When she returned, the Prophet accompanied her walking. An Ansari man saw him. When the Prophet noticed him, he called him and said, come here, she is Safiya. Sufyan, a sub-narrator, perhaps said that the Prophet had said, this is Safiya, and Satan circulates in the body of Adam's offspring as his blood circulates in it. A sub-narrator asked Sufyan, did Safiya visit him at night? He said, of course at night. Volume 3, Book 33, number 256, narrated by Abu Sa'id, we practiced itikaf with Allah's apostle in the middle 10 days of Ramadan. In the morning of the 20th of Ramadan, we shifted our baggage, but Allah's apostle came to us and said, whoever was itikaf should return to his place of itikaf, for I saw, that is, was informed about the date of this night of Qadr, and saw myself prostrating in mud and water. When I returned to my place, the sky was overcast with clouds, and it rained. By him who sent Muhammad with the truth, the sky was covered with clouds from the end of that day, and the mosque which was roofed with leaf stalks of date palm trees, leaked with rain, and I saw the trace of mud and water over the nose of the Prophet and its tip. Volume 3, Book 33, number 257, narrated by Amra bint Abdur Rahman from Aisha. Allah's apostle used to practice itikaf every year in the month of Ramadan. And after offering the morning prayer, he used to enter the place of his itikaf. Aisha asked his permission to let her practice itikaf and he allowed her, and so she pitched a tent in the mosque. When Hafsa heard of that, she also pitched a tent, for herself. And when Zainab heard of that, she too pitched another tent. When in the morning, Allah's apostle had finished the morning prayer, he saw 4 tents and asked, "What is this?" He was informed about it. He then said, "What made them do this? Is it righteousness? Remove the tents, for I do not want to see them." So the tents were removed. The Prophet did not perform itikaf that year in the month of Ramadan, but did it in the last 10 days of Shawwal. Volume 3, Book 33, number 258, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Umar bin al-Khattab said, "O Allah's apostle, I vowed in the pre-Islamic period to perform itikaf in al-Masjid al-Haram for one night." The Prophet said, "Fulfill your vow." So he performed itikaf for one night. Volume 3, Book 33, number 259, narrated by Ibn Umar that Umar had vowed in the pre-Islamic period to perform itikaf in al-Masjid al-Haram. A sub-narrator thinks that Umar vowed to perform itikaf for one night. Allah's apostle said to Umar, "Fulfill your vow." Volume 3, Book 33, number 260, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet used to perform itikaf every year in the month of Ramadan for 10 days, and when it was the year of his death, he stayed in itikaf for 20 days. Volume 3, Book 33, number 261, narrated by Amra bint Abdurrahman from Aisha. Allah's apostle mentioned that he would practice. Aisha asked his permission to perform. Aisha to take his permission for her, and she did so. When Zainab bint Jahsh saw that, she ordered a tent to be pitched for her, and it was pitched for her. Allah's apostle used to proceed to his tent after the prayer, so he saw the tents and asked, "What is this?" He was told that those were the tents of Aisha, Hafsa, and Zainab. Allah's apostle said, "Is it righteousness which they intended by doing so? I am not going to perform itikaf." So he returned home. When the fasting month was over, he performed itikaf for 10 days in the month of Shawwal. Volume 3, Book 33, number 262, narrated by Urwa. Aisha during her menses used to comb and oil the hair of the Prophet while he used to be in itikaf in the mosque. He would stretch out his head towards her while she was in her chamber.